Welcome into 5 Wide Fantasy. Today, we're going to talk draft strategy for the middle rounds of your fantasy football drafts. That's going to be rounds 6 to 10. Similar to our video, I'll include as well in the description, actually, our early rounds. This is going off our early round strategy, building on that, and then what we want to do after we've done the strategy we like in the early rounds, how we're going to take it to the middle rounds to really crush it this year with our fantasy football drafts. If you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to let me know. Hit that subscribe button, like the video. Would really appreciate it if you do, and comment down below with some of your favorite strategies heading into this season and how you're looking to build out your draft. Happy to answer any questions you guys might have. Before we get to the strategy, today's video is brought to you by The Stunt. We're live on The Stunt every Friday at 4 with answering fantasy football questions, previewing each and every division. So this week, be sure to tune in on Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern. That link is in the description. But first, let me show you a little bit about what Stunt is all about. Social media is such a crowded space these days. If you're looking for sports content on the latest news, advice, or hell, even entertainment, it can be cluttered by content you don't actually want to see. That's where The Stunt comes in. They've taken all the elements of your favorite social media apps, brought it to one place, and made it about the one thing we love most: sports. Stunt was founded by the creator of YouTube TV at Google. So the design is eye-popping and the navigation is simple. Check out the latest takes, sparks, and live rooms from us and other content creators like Trey Wingo and Michael Irvin. Don't just follow sports. Be a part of the conversation. Download the Stunt app today. All right, so what we'll be doing is we'll go through each position, how I see each position and where the value is through these 5 rounds from round 6 to 10. And then I'll get to each of the guys I'm looking for. A few targets for each round to help you as you're going through your draft. So let's start with the running back position. I think there's a number of running backs that I like that people believe don't have defined roles. Those are the players I want to that I believe do have defined roles. Those are the players I want to target, the players that I have a good idea of what their role is, and if they execute the way I think they will, they can still return a ton of value and be valuable fantasy assets. What I don't want to do, and what I see far too many people doing in these middle rounds, is going after running backs that are like, yeah, he did this last season, like, yeah, he wasn't good enough, but here's what, he could do this. Those kinds of backs. DeAndre Swift didn't score any touchdowns last year. Well, guess what you need to do in Philadelphia as a running back to be valuable? Score touchdowns. The receiving volume is not enough for DeAndre Swift. Rashad White. Yes, Rashad White, he didn't take over for Leonard Fournette completely, but now he's got a great opportunity to do so. Well, he's got a terrible offensive line to run behind that will not be able to run the ball effectively for him. I don't think he has the upside. A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon's only role is potentially scoring touchdowns. He hasn't been all that efficient. Brian Robinson, player that the Commanders seem to just hand the ball over to, didn't care about the offense's efficiency. Now we get Eric Bieniemy. I think his role is no longer very good. What I love and what I want to target is the concern that people have for players that don't have the entire pie in terms of the share of receiving work, early downs work, goal line work. What you can do at the running back position in these rounds is take advantage of people that don't think like that those are valuable spots. A guy that has a defined role of, hey, he's our pass catcher, or hey, he's our touchdown scorer. Look at last season. Look at the guys going in these middle rounds or that return value with more specified roles. Joel Williams, the touchdown scorer in Detroit. He was one of the best fantasy assets you could have drafted last season based on his ADP. Miles Sanders with the Eagles, defined role, run the football. He had like only 15 receptions, scored 12 touchdowns, returned great value on his ADP. Leonard Fournette ran for like 600 yards, but he caught like 70 passes. That's good enough for me. Ramondre Stevenson, who was a guy typically going in this area of drafts last year. Ramondre Stevenson had a ton of receptions, and then he grew a lot more in his role as a runner as well. But if you're really good in some of these specific roles, your opportunity could grow. And there's a couple guys I like in these rounds that can do that. So that is how I feel about the running back position. Now for wide receivers, again, if you guys were watching the early round draft strategy, I'm targeting wide receivers a lot in my first 5 rounds. I'm probably walking away in the first 5 rounds with 3 wide receivers and sometimes 3 straight, my first 3 picks potentially. I really like the hero RB strategy. So I think in this area of the draft, there's a lot of question marks at the wide receiver position. We have 3 different ones, whether it's an underwhelming offense, rookies where we're not sure what their role is going to be, a receiver room with a lot of competition when it comes to targets and can they get enough of a share. Those overwhelming offense guys this year are Chris Godwin, Michael Pittman, Marquise Brown. The rookies, JSN, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, those highly competitive offenses. You got guys like Tyler Lockett, George Pickens, Traylon Burks. So those are the types of players that I see, that's where I see problems at the wide receiver spot for me. What I want to do with wide receiver is target upside. I'm already solidified in my early rounds. What I'm going to do when I draft a wide receiver, I'm looking for someone that can really explode and give me a finish that makes it where I'm making that tough decision of, hey, this guy's been so good. Maybe I'm going to start him this week over Amari Cooper in a bad matchup. I don't need the mid guys that are like, yeah, I can plug them in on a bye week, but I'm not going to have high expectations of what they're capable of doing. So that's how I'm attacking the wide receiver position. For tight end, for me, it's really Darren Waller or bust in the tight end spot in these 5 rounds. There are only 5 other tight ends that are typically going in these middle rounds: Dallas Goedert, Evan Ingram, Pat Freiermuth, and David Njoku. All these guys for me have the same concern. Is there enough to go around in their offense, right? There's a ton of competition here. For Freiermuth, he's got Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris. For Ingram, he's got Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, and Zay Jones. Goddard's got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. And Njoku's got Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper. So who is going to have the touchdown luck? And I'm not drafting my fantasy team. A lot of this, every year comes down to a little bit of luck, but I want to take luck out of the equation as much as possible when it comes to evaluating these players. And touchdowns, for a lot of the cases, come down to luck. It's very difficult to predict touchdowns, and I'm not relying on touchdowns when I'm drafting a tight end in this area of the draft when I'm sacrificing those other positions. And for these guys, I don't see a world where they enter the elite tier because of that competition. Now, could they get into that second tier? What they would need to do that would be 100+ targets or double-digit touchdowns. None of these guys have done that in their career. Freiermuth and Ingram came very close, and none of them, I believe, last year scored more than 4 touchdowns. Like even Dallas Goedert hasn't scored more than 4 touchdowns in his career. So Waller's the guy I could see entering that elite tier. That's why I'm willing to draft him early in the 6th round. For quarterback, we talked about in the early round draft strategy. I've usually targeted I have a couple quarterbacks I like early. I might already have one. But if I don't, we'll talk a little bit more about some of my favorite targets. If I don't have them, I'm not feeling the pressure to reach on a guy. What I like to do if I haven't drafted a quarterback here is look for stacks. I'm not looking to stack too early round. Like I'm not looking to stack a Josh Allen with a Stephon Diggs or a Patrick Mahomes with a Travis Kelce. That puts way too much pressure on health of those players, or else my season is completely tanked. So what I could be looking for is stacks. I could be looking for Deshaun Watson to stack with Elijah Moore or Amari Cooper. I could be looking for Kirk Cousins to stack with a Jordan Addison or Justin Jefferson. I could use Daniel Jones to stack with Darren Waller, or maybe I use Jared Goff as a stack with Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I think for me, Watson's the only guy that has top 3 upside. I don't think a Tua does. I don't think Kirk Cousins quite can get to that tier without the rushing abilities. Tua is a player that is in a really tough schedule this year, one of the toughest in the league, so I'm a little concerned there. But I'm not... Even with some of these players not having the upside, that doesn't mean I'm going to double dip and grab 2 of them in these rounds. I think I'm giving up too much doing that, especially when we talk about targeting wide receiver early. We're really going to need to use make sure we get some good backs here. So quarterback, if you're looking to get guys in this tier or in this area of your drafts, I'm not reaching. I'm looking for stack options, or I like a Deshaun Watson as a guy to make sure I grab. So we'll go from there into now each round. Who are my favorite targets? Who should you be looking for when we're trying to build out this strategy and carry it out from that early round into these middle rounds? So round 6, I mentioned it earlier. Darren Waller is like number 1. It's Darren Waller or bust at the tight end spot, and this is where he's typically going. Now, he could enter that round 5 area. I would be comfortable drafting him there too, but right now it looks like round 6 is where you're going to find Darren Waller behind Kyle Pitts, behind George Kittle, and I'm absolutely drafting him at this spot. He's one of my favorite guys to go to. And then the wide receiver and running back spots. So like I mentioned, I'm really heavy on tight end. Really want to get Darren Waller at tight end, but I also, in a lot of my drafts, my strategy is that hero RB, so I do need to secure a running back. A couple guys I really like. Javonte Williams, the Broncos offense, is really going to make the running back position very valuable for you. I think Williams, who seems well ahead in his recovery from his ACL injury, which is great to hear. His injury came a little bit before Breece Hall's did. He's been practicing, been working in 11-on-11, taking contact. Love that for him. James Conner is another. I think his opportunities and his volume are going to be great. I think he's going to be, and has proven to be over the last couple of seasons, a great guy converting touchdowns for you. This is going to be a great offense, but it's still going to score some points. At the wide receiver spots, Brandon Ayuk, Christian Kirk, and Mike Williams. Mike Williams is my number one here. He's usually going at the end of the 6th, but he's a top 15 receiver in my rankings. So definitely one I'd be willing to, if I don't like the 2 backs, I'd be willing to go to Williams there in round 6 as well. But those are 3 guys I like at the wide receiver spot. For round 7, this is definitely where I want to secure a running back. And that guy that I'm reaching for in all of my drafts is James Cook. James Cook is usually going in the round 7 area. I absolutely have to have him. He's going as like an RB30. I have him as, right on the borderline of my top 15. I love his opportunity here as a pass catcher. The Bills had 90 targets to running backs last season. No Devin Singletary, no Nyheim Hines. Damian Harris is that RB2 who doesn't have much of a receiving profile. Cook will be great. Cook could be league-winning type potential guy. He will definitely be one of my league winners when we get to our league winners. But at the very bare bones least, he has that receiving role that will make him a mainstay in your lineup because of what his floor can be now with the absences of the rest of these guys. He still pitched in around over 20 receptions last season. Other guy to target, another guy with a clear defined role in my mind is David Montgomery. He's that touchdown guy in Detroit. And I think, as good as Jamal Williams was from that touchdown perspective last year, I don't think it's anything that is a credit to him as a talent. I don't think Jamal Williams is anything above average as a running back talent in the league. Montgomery can do what Jamal Williams did last season because Jahmyr Gibbs is not well suited for that role. He is a pass catching back. He is a guy that gets outside the tackles. In his time at Alabama, he only had a 21% share of the teams inside the 5 carries. He's only posted double-digit touchdowns in college once. Bijan Robinson's a guy that posted 20 last year. So I like Dave Montgomery's opportunity there. If you want to go wide receiver, if you did go heavy on the running backs, if you don't buy that strategy of the early rounds, guys I like, Deontay Johnson, Jordan Addison, and Jahan Dotson would be a couple others that are definitely ones that are on my radar. Addison we talked about recently, but Dotson's one I'm definitely excited about. Another guy I would potentially reach on. In round 8, talked about quarterbacks a little bit. This is where Deshaun Watson tends to go. He's someone that I would be targeting. If you want the stack with Amari Cooper, I don't hate taking Watson in round 7 because there does seem to be a couple round gap of like Trevor Lawrence going and then the next quarterback going. So if you wanted to reach on him in round 7 to stack him, I wouldn't hate that at all. I think Watson, like I said, is capable of being a top 3 fantasy QB if things go right for him. I'm still looking at the running back position here too. Rashad Penny, much like David Montgomery, I think is the touchdown scorer for the Eagles this season. He's someone I really like there. Someone to take a shot on, reach on in round 8. He could even be available in round 9. A lot of these guys, as we get to these later rounds, are players that their ADP can be all over the place depending on how your draft goes in terms of how does everybody else value the running back position. Penny might go even earlier. So a lot of this is on feel and how comfortable I am taking these guys at these spots. They might not necessarily have this type of ADP. Penny and Williams, Jamal Williams, another one, could be going a little bit later in ADP, but I'm willing to take them in round 8. I think there's value in them in round 8. Cortland Sutton and Michael Thomas, we talked about upside at the wide receiver position. That's what I'm looking for when I'm drafting wide receivers in these rounds. Cortland Sutton, I think, has plenty of upside and the unknown that a lot of people don't realize how valuable the X receiver is in Joe Lombardi's offense. He's the new OC for the Broncos. We saw Mike Williams in that X receiver role with Lombardi have a huge first season in 2021. He was a wide receiver 10. Sutton can be that guy here for the Broncos. And then Thomas, I think he could be a big-time touchdown scorer for the Saints. I think Olave is a great separator downfield. Thomas is a route tactician, a good red zone option. We saw him score 3 touchdowns in 3 games that he played last year. I like the QB upgrade with Derek Carr. I think he has great upside despite the risk of injury, of course. Round 10. Keeping with the theme here of another quarterback, another potential stack like we talked about, Kirk Cousins. Cousins is in an offense that's probably going to be top 2, top 3 in passing play percentage and pass attempts per game this season. There's a ton of volume for him. This reminds me of, that Jameis Winston season where the volume is so high. And Cousins has some real talent at the receiver spots between him and Addison. Now no Dalvin Cook. They could run or throw the ball even more. At the wide receiver spots, again, more upside I'm looking for. Zay Flowers in a newly designed Ravens offense, and then we also have Elijah Moore in a new team here. Again, we talked about this in yesterday's video. When you're trying to find upside of the receiver spots or really anywhere in fantasy, go to places with a player that's entering a new team or a player whose offense and scheme is going to change dramatically. For Flowers, it's actually both. He's a rookie and the offense is a major scheme change. So those are the guys in round 10 that I'm looking for. And then round 9 that I'm looking for. And then in round 10, the last round of these middle rounds for me, there's a few players to take flyers on. I'll start with actually a tight end I'm willing to reach on, Dalton Schultz. I think Dalton Schultz will prove to be a great safety valve for CJ Stroud. This 49ers offense comes in, that scheme comes in, could really suit Schultz. Schultz would probably be my favorite guy. Collins has great size at 6'4". Schultz might be their best and favorite red zone target potentially. So I do think Schultz is a player that, where his ADP is, I think can easily return on it. I'm hesitant on like really high ceiling, but I do think he's a guy that floor-wise would be comfortable playing week in and week out if you're looking for a tight end. And then a couple other, again, the guys in round 9 I mentioned could go in round 10 as well. But Jamison Williams and Sky Moore are some players that I'm really curious about and would be players I'd be looking to take a shot on in round 10. All right. That is my middle round draft strategy. Be sure, guys, again, if you haven't checked out the early rounds, go back, watch that video, and see how we're kind of building out this roster here with our fantasy football draft strategy for the 2023 fantasy season. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to let me know. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel as well if you enjoyed. Get those post notifications on. We got content coming for you each and every day. We'll have some high upside running back, or the highest upside running backs coming tomorrow, so don't miss that. And as well, check out the Stunt, download the app. It'll be pinned in the comments and in the description. If you want to come talk fantasy football, I would love to hear from you guys. We're going to talk breakouts, busts, and sleepers in each of the divisions. Would love to hear what you guys think. We'll chat with you. Even if you guys are interested, we can kind of rate some fantasy teams as we get into the draft season. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.